Things just got very real, folks, and the entire baseball landscape has been completely turned upside down in the past 24 hours. We have multiple absolutely massive updates surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays' pursuit of both Kyle Tucker and Bichette, and the situation has drastically changed following the signing of one of the biggest free agents still on the board. He hasn't signed with the Blue Jays. No. But this blockbuster deal has absolutely enormous implications for Toronto's pursuit of multiple players. But that's not all. We also have a shocking new report surrounding the New York Yankees that has serious impact on the rest of the free agency class, with the Blue Jays obviously being the team most affected by this development. The dominoes are falling, the floodgates are opening, and everything is about to accelerate at breakneck speed. There's a ton to cover today, folks, and you're going to want to stay tuned all the way to the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal could determine whether the Blue Jays finish this offseason as heroes or zeros. Before we dive into the absolute chaos that's unfolding, you guys have been absolute beasts with your support, and it truly means the world to me. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and turn on notifications, because when the next domino falls, and it's going to fall soon, you're going to want to be the first to know. Let's dive right into the madness. Alex Bregman has officially signed, and the ripple effects of this deal are going to shake the entire baseball world. Let me start with the basics before we explore what this means for Toronto. It's Boston, New York, and everyone else still scrambling for the remaining elite free agents. According to Jeff Passan, Bregman has agreed to a 5-year deal worth $175 million with the Chicago Cubs. That's right, 1 year after their failed pursuit of Bregman in free agency. The Cubs have finally landed one of the biggest bats available this winter. And let me tell you, that's $35 million per year, which is absolutely massive money for a player who's been incredible but also has some question marks about age and positional fit. Good for the Cubs, though they needed a big move to show their fan base they're serious about competing. Now, the Blue Jays had been heavily linked to Alex Bregman earlier in the offseason before they signed Kazuma Okamoto to his 4-year, $70 million deal. And you know what? I'm taking the Okamoto contract every single time over what Bregman just got. $35 million per year is a lot of money for Bregman at this stage of his career, especially with the defensive questions. The Blue Jays made the smart play by pivoting to Okamoto at a much more reasonable price point. But here's where things get absolutely wild and potentially terrifying for Blue Jays fans. A report dropped immediately after the Bregman signing that should send chills down your spine. Quote, the Boston Red Sox, after missing out on re-signing Alex Bregman, will now turn their sights to Bo Bichette. Oh my God, folks. Things are about to get very real, very quickly. This is the nightmare scenario starting to materialize right before our eyes. The first major position player, free agent in weeks, is officially off the board, and Alex Bregman going to the Cubs means he's one of 3 or 4 elite bats left available. With Bregman gone, that leaves only Bo, Bichette, Kyle Tucker, and potentially Cody Bellinger as the premier offensive weapons still unsigned. And here's what makes this absolutely terrifying from a Blue Jays perspective. Alex Bregman is now off the board, which means the Boston Red Sox have lost out on their top 2 third-base targets in the span of 6 to 12 months. They lost Rafael Devers to extension negotiations that didn't work out, and now they've been beaten by the Cubs for Bregman. What does that mean? It means they're going to go absolutely all out for Bo Bichette. This is the nightmare scenario, people. The Red Sox are desperate. They've whiffed on multiple targets, and they're going to throw everything they have at convincing Bo to come to Boston. And it's not just the Red Sox that Blue Jays fans need to worry about. We'll get to the Yankees situation in just a minute that makes this even more complicated. But let me be crystal clear about what's at stake here. If Bo Bichette signs with a team in the AL East, whether it's Boston or New York, that's an absolute disaster for Toronto. You're talking about a homegrown superstar, a beloved player who's been the face of the franchise alongside Vladdy, going to a division rival and terrorizing the Blue Jays 19 times per season. That's a PR nightmare, a competitive nightmare, and potentially a championship window-closing nightmare all rolled into one. Now, let's talk about the other bombshell that dropped late last night involving the New York Yankees, because this has massive implications for the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes. According to multiple sources, the Yankees' negotiations with Cody Bellinger are at an impasse. The Yankees were reportedly hoping to re-sign Bellinger, who played reasonably well for them, but they're now operating under the assumption that Bellinger is going to sign elsewhere. The team is now seeking additions elsewhere as well, according to sources. Let me break down why this is such a massive development and what it could mean for the Blue Jays. If Cody Bellinger ends up signing with either the Los Angeles Dodgers or the New York Mets instead of returning to the Yankees, that would significantly increase the likelihood of Kyle Tucker landing with the Toronto Blue Jays. This is not a minor detail. This is a major development that could reshape the entire offseason. Here's the logic. The Blue Jays' pursuit of Kyle Tucker has been very clear and very aggressive. I've covered it extensively on this channel, discussing how Toronto is recruiting Tucker through multiple channels, from George Springer's golf outings to social media campaigns from Vladdy and others. The recruitment efforts are real, they're coordinated, and they're starting to work. But if Bellinger goes to the Mets or Dodgers, the Blue Jays suddenly have one fewer serious competitor for Tucker's services. The Red Sox aren't going to pursue Tucker if they're going Elin on Bichette. They can't afford to chase both. The Yankees, despite some vague rumblings, probably aren't going to make a serious run at Tucker given their current spending approach and roster construction. That leaves the Blue Jays in an incredibly strong position if they're willing to make the financial commitment. According to reports, the Yankees offered Bellinger a 5-year deal worth at least $30 million per season, and he doesn't want it. Sources say he's looking for more, and given that we just saw Bregman get $35 million per year, I can absolutely understand why Bellinger would want a comparable or higher number. He's a former MVP, he's younger than Bregman, and he brings versatility that few players can match. Things are really starting to ramp up on the Scott Boras front across the board. Boras represents both Bellinger and Tucker, and there's reportedly some serious beef developing between Boras and Yankees GM Brian Cashman. Reports came out that the two are basically duking it out publicly through the media, which probably explains why the Bellinger negotiations have hit such a massive wall. And here's where the timing becomes absolutely critical for the Blue Jays. This would be the perfect moment to offer Kyle Tucker a long-term deal and get it done before the Yankees potentially enter the Tucker sweepstakes as a backup plan to losing Bellinger. You've got to strike while the iron is hot, while your competition is distracted or eliminated, while Tucker's camp is evaluating their options. Now, in an ideal world for Blue Jays fans, Bellinger signs with the Mets or Dodgers. The Yankees move on to other targets that aren't Tucker. The Red Sox focused exclusively on Bichette, and Toronto swoops in to land Tucker without significant competition. That's the dream scenario that maximizes Toronto's leverage and minimizes the price they have to pay. But there's a flip side to this situation that should terrify every Blue Jays fan. If the Yankees aren't pursuing Bellinger anymore, what's to stop them from going after Tucker instead? Now? I don't think that's likely based on everything we've heard about New York's spending approach this offseason, and none of the credible reports have indicated the Yankees are seriously interested in Tucker. But the possibility exists, and that's enough to cause some sleepless nights. This could also be an elaborate leverage play, and we've seen this movie before. Think back to last year when reports came out about a week or two before Pete Alonso re-signed with the Mets at a discount. The narrative was that the Mets were out, that negotiations had hit an impasse, that Alonso was definitely going elsewhere. And then boom, he re-signs with New York at a lower number than expected. The whole thing was a leverage play to get Alonso to lower his demands. So yes, it's entirely possible that this Yankees-Bellinger impasse is partially or entirely manufactured to put pressure on Bellinger's camp to be more flexible on contract terms. I do think ultimately, when all is said and done, Cody Bellinger probably re-signs with the Yankees. But even the possibility that he doesn't, even the uncertainty, represents a major development in how the rest of free agency plays out. And regardless of what happens with Bellinger, the key point remains. All these signings are happening now. The floodgates are finally starting to open. And pressure is mounting on everyone still searching for their missing pieces. Whether it's Bichette potentially going to the Red Sox in an absolute nightmare scenario, or the Yankees pivoting to unexpected targets, or teams scrambling to adjust their plans, everything is accelerating. And that pressure is on multiple teams, but it's especially intense for the Toronto Blue Jays. From our perspective as fans, if the Red Sox or Yankees somehow land Bichette, Toronto absolutely cannot leave this free agency class without adding another significant bat to the lineup. You cannot let that happen. Bregman is gone now, So he obviously wasn't a realistic option after signing Kazuma Okamoto anyway. But luckily Bregman went to the National League with the Cubs. He didn't re-sign with the Red Sox, which would have been a disaster. That's genuinely good news because it means one of Toronto's division rivals didn't get significantly better. But if the Red Sox get Bichette, what's next for the Blue Jays? What's the backup plan? That would be an absolute doomsday scenario, especially if Toronto also fails to land Kyle Tucker. Because at that point, yes, you've made huge improvements this offseason with Dylan Cease, and Bieber, Kazuma, Okamoto, and others. And yes, it's still technically a win compared to where you started. But is it really a win when you let your superstar homegrown talent walk to your biggest division rival at Fenway Park? Is it really a win when Bichette is hitting clutch home runs against Toronto's pitching staff 19 times per season while wearing Red Sox colors? Is it really a win when you had the chance to land Kyle Tucker and didn't pull the trigger, leaving your offense without the impact bat it desperately needs? I don't think so. That would feel like a massive failure despite all the good moves that came before. And that's why the pressure is squarely on Ross Atkins and the Blue Jays front office right now to close at least one of these deals, preferably Tucker, before it's too late. I do think, when everything shakes out, that the Blue Jays are going to land Tucker. I genuinely believe that. But it's starting to feel a little bit scary with how long this is taking and how many other dominoes are falling while Toronto apparently sits idle. We're seeing deals start to happen all around baseball, and I suspect this is going to open the floodgates even more in the coming days. Bregman getting $35 million per year is fascinating because I'm now very curious to see how this affects the Bichette market. Obviously, they're very different positions and very different types of players. Bregman is a much better defender. He's proven himself in bigger markets, and he has championship pedigree. But Bo is younger, he's a more dynamic offensive player when healthy, and he brings star power that teams covet. I could legitimately see Bo now getting somewhere in the $200 to $250 million range over 7 or 8 years. Because if Bregman can get $35 million per season, why can't Bo get $28 or $30 million annually? The market has been set. The precedent has been established.
Cool.
And Bo's camp is going to use this Bregman deal as leverage in their own negotiations. You can see why the Blue Jays might not have wanted to go 5 years and $175 million for Bregman when they got Kazuma Okamoto for a fraction of that cost. Okamoto is 4 years and $70 million, which is less than half what Bregman got. And while Bregman is obviously the better player, the value proposition of Okamoto becomes much more attractive when you see what the market ended up paying for third base help. But regardless, things have gotten very real, very quickly. The Bregman signing. This report about the Yankees and Bellinger being at an impasse, the Yankees are genuinely seeking additions elsewhere. You've got to pray it's not Kyle Tucker they're targeting. Now, I don't think Brian Cashman is going to suddenly shift gears and go after Tucker, given everything we know about their spending philosophy this winter. But the possibility exists, and that's enough to cause concern. There's apparently some serious beef going on between Cashman and Scott Boras, with the two of them full-on duking it out publicly through the media. Are you not entertained? This is the kind of drama that makes the offseason almost as exciting as the actual season. Reports have been flying about their contentious relationship, and it probably explains why so many Boras clients are having difficulties with the Yankees. There have been new reports and articles dropping about this feud, and it adds another layer of complexity to an already complicated situation. The Yankees are one of the best fits on paper for Kyle Tucker in terms of roster construction, park factors, and championship window. They've already loaded up this offseason on pitching and bullpen help, though they could use a little bit more. And obviously, with Okamoto off the board, adding one more impact outfield bat would complete their roster. But the Boras-Cashman beef might actually work in Toronto's favor here. If the Yankees are having difficulties negotiating with Boras clients, and Tucker is a Boras client, that could eliminate New York as a serious threat in the Tucker sweepstakes. Sometimes you win not because you're the best option, but because your competition shoots itself in the foot. The pressure is fully back on Ross Atkins now. It's on the Red Sox and Yankees as well, obviously, but from our perspective, the Blue Jays have made the most significant additions of any American League team this offseason. They've been the most aggressive, they've spent the most money, they've addressed the most needs. But you absolutely cannot let Bo go to the Red Sox while simultaneously missing out on Tucker. That would be a disaster. The signing of Bregman to the Cubs, while getting him out of the division, makes Bo to Boston a hell of a lot more likely. And that's the scary thing that should keep Blue Jays fans up at night. Boston is desperate. They've missed on multiple targets, and they're going to make Bichette an offer that's very difficult to refuse. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on all of this. Are you terrified that Bo ends up in Boston? Are you confident the Blue Jays close the Tucker deal? And what do you make of this Yankees-Bellinger impasse and whether it's real or just leverage? There are a couple of other quick things worth mentioning before we wrap up. Keep an eye on Chris Bassitt potentially heading to the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers have expressed interest in free agent starting pitchers including both Lucas Giolito and Chris Bassitt. According to Ken Rosenthal and Will Salmon, they note that Detroit might be less likely to add another starter if they lose their arbitration case with Tarek Skubal because they'll have to pay Skubal significantly more than the $19 million they're currently willing to commit. Chris Bassitt is a name we haven't really talked about much on this channel this offseason, and honestly, I'd like to have him back in Toronto. It's probably not going to happen because the Blue Jays have so many starters already, but if they were to bring a veteran arm back, it would more likely be Max Scherzer than Bassitt. Still, Bassitt was a professional. He 8 innings, and he'd be a solid addition for any team looking for rotation depth. But folks, it's wild how quickly everything is moving now. I suspect we're going to see multiple moves happen in the coming days, potentially including Tucker or Bo signing. We know Bo is meeting with the Phillies sometime very soon if they haven't already had that conversation. The dominoes are falling, the pressure is mounting, and the Blue Jays need to act decisively before it's too late. So here's what I need from you right now. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the Bregman signing and all its implications for the Blue Jays, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already because we're bringing you daily updates on every development. Turn on notifications so you're alerted the moment Tucker or Bo makes their decision. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Are you terrified? Are you confident? What move do you want to see the Blue Jays make next? Let me know everything you're thinking. Share this with your fellow Blue Jays fans who need to understand how critical the next few days are going to be. Tag them, send them the link, get everyone on the same page about what's at stake. The floodgates are opening, folks. Bregman is gone. The Yankees and Red Sox are scrambling. The pressure is on Ross Atkins to close. This is it. This is when championships are won or lost. Stay locked in, stay hopeful, and pray the Blue Jays get this done. Until next time, let's go Blue Jays. Let's land Kyle Tucker. Let's avoid the nightmare of Bo in Boston. This is our moment. You guys are absolute beasts. Peace.